That was a scene from 1998's The Truman Show. Jim Carrey played Truman, a man who learns his entire life from the time he was born has been the subject of a reality TV show. But before that film hit theaters, a real-life Truman Show was already taking place across the globe in Japan. Except instead of Truman, there was Nasubi, a 22-year-old aspiring comedian who found himself an unwitting participant on a twisted reality show.
They actually turned it from just a weekly broadcast into a full-blown live stream where you could log on online and watch him suffer in real time.
In 1998, the comedian won an audition for a new segment called A Life in Prizes. Emotional mind game when realizing Nasubi's door was unlocked the whole time. Nasubi stuck it out 1 year and 3 months until the series finale, when producers unveiled him naked in front of a live studio audience.
Nasubi's tale is one of darkness and the loss of empathy within mankind. I'm sure some of you guys have heard about Japanese reality shows where they just flat out torture their contestants, but the one I'm about to share today is arguably the most heinous game show of all time. So if this sounds interesting to you, make sure to like and subscribe and stick around to the end of the video. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, real quick, huge shout out to ONKMP4 for letting me use his edit at the beginning of the video. If you want to see more amazing edits like that, you should 100% follow him on TikTok. Link in the description to his page. Now, Homatsu Tomaki, better known by his nickname Nasubi, which translates to eggplant in Japanese, was given this nickname to his long face. Personally, I don't really see the resemblance, but there's another reason for why he got this nickname, which was because producers used an animated icon of an eggplant to censor his nudity throughout the show, and while live streaming, the editors would use like a joystick to navigate throughout the screen to try and cover up all of his nether regions. Nasubi was, and still is to this day, a comedian and a media personality. However, he is best known for his performance in the controversial reality show Sutsuni Denpa Shonen, which translates to Do Not Proceed Crazy Youth. The show was absolutely infamous in its time for being extremely cruel and having really extreme situations for its contestants. Surprisingly though, it gained really high ratings within Japan, and it spawned a sister show that, from what I've read, is just a little bit less brutal than its predecessor. Most of the contestants on Sutsuni Denpa Shonen were comedians just like Nasubi, trying to get their name out there, or at least just the tiniest bit of exposure from their performance in the show. This was the main contributing reason as to why Nasubi signed up for the show in the first place, stemming from promises of fame and publicity all from the show. Nasubi auditioned in late 1997, having no idea what he was truly signing up for. All Nasubi knew going into this were the fundamental ground rules of the show. Rule number 1 was to escape the show, he had to win a minimum of 1 million yen, around $8,000 USD, and prizes from only magazine sweepstakes. Rule number 2 was that he would start with absolutely nothing. No food, no entertainment, and not even the clothes he walked in with. The only things that Nasubi was allowed to have were the things that already came with his apartment in the first place, such as heating, running water, and then tons and tons of magazines for sweepstakes that he would enter in for. And to enter in for the sweepstakes, he was also given pallets of postcards, and the most important item, a camera that was used to live stream everything going on with Nasubi. With no communication to or from the outside world, he had no idea of how many people were watching him at all times, and no knowledge that his suffering is being broadcasted 24/7. Nasubi going into the show thought the editors would trim down all the footage of him naked and stuff. He had no idea of the ill intentions of the producers, where they would trap him in a room and record everything he was doing 24/7. To start off, Nasubi was given nothing to eat except small packs of crackers, which in the first place he wasn't even allowed to have. The production crew didn't want to see him suffer so bad that he would quit the show automatically. So the production crew gave him barely, I'm not kidding you, barely enough crackers to stop him from starving immediately. And about a week or two in, he won his first actual prize, which was a pack of jelly sugar drinks. And after days of just crackers and water only, this must have felt like an actual feast. But after the jelly drink came in, the production crew was told to stop giving him crackers, and he only had to subsidize off his own winnings. Then, after days and soon weeks of hunger, Nasubi won another edible item, a bag of rice.
はい、それで厳正な抽選の結果当選されましたので
He was ecstatic until he realized one crucial detail, which was that he did not win any pots, pans, or utensils that he could properly cook the rice with. So Nasubi had absolutely no option but to eat it raw. But after a couple days of just eating the rice raw, Nasubi was really smart and figured out a way to properly, well, I wouldn't say really properly, just to cook the rice slightly. He would start by getting the rice in some water and putting it into a plastic baggie, and setting the baggie next to the stove which he had, so it would soften the rice slightly. It wasn't fully cooked, but it was 100% better than just raw rice. But at that point, what is it? Unfortunately, once the rice supply dwindled, his next major prize was dog food. Yeah, you heard me right, dog food. About 2.6 pounds of it. Some was wet dog food in cans, and the other was just a really big bag of dry kibble. With no other options, he started by eating the canned dog food by placing it on the stove, which he had, and heating it up till it was at least like some sort of edible. But once those ran out, Nasubi had to resort to eating dry kibble. Hey, but if you want to have something you can actually feast on, make sure to like and subscribe. We are almost at 200 subs, and it would be a dream come true if I could finally see that happen. One of Nasubi's few sources of comfort was a teddy bear he won a few months in. He started treating the bear as a sort of mentor or sensei, you could call it. With no human interaction for the past couple months, he talked to the bear as if it was guiding him. His only other form of social interaction, if you could even call it that, I personally would not, but just for the sake of this video, let's call it that, were Nasubi's mandatory physicals. But even then, the doctors were told explicitly, do not talk to Nasubi unless absolutely crucial. Only type of form of clothing Nasubi won in the show were women's panties. But once he tried them on, he realized that they were too small to ever wear properly or comfortably for the matter. So he just decided to stick to his birthday suit. He had no grooming tools at his disposal, so his hair and his nails grew to absolutely extreme lengths. Nasubi throughout the show won larger and larger amounts of bags of rice. The largest he ever won was a 10-kilogram bag, aka 22 pounds in freedom terms, which sustained him for the remainder of the show. Nasubi, however, also won many useless prizes throughout the show. Not just the panties, but also things like movie tickets, and also a bike, which he turned into a stationary bike, giving himself a way to at least pass time and exercise while doing it. One of his most valuable wins to Nasubi, at least at the time, was toilet paper, because up until that point, Nasubi had just been using his hand and water to clean himself up after using the restroom. But soon after winning that toilet paper, he won a television set. He was absolutely ecstatic at first after seeing he won this, but little did he know that the producers of the show had sabotaged the cable connection so he couldn't properly use a TV ever if he ever won one. The producers were absolutely terrified of the fact that if he ever saw that he was currently on a television show being live streamed 24/7 without his knowledge, that he would just up and leave. And as the show grew more and more in popularity, reaching a peak of 17 million viewers, fans, paparazzi, and even reporters began to figure out exactly where Nasubi was being kept at. And to prevent interference in the show and make sure Nasubi was in the dark about this entire thing, Nasubi was quite literally blindfolded and deafened and transported to a new location. He was confused and demanded exactly why he was being transported to a new location. The only reason they would actually give him was that it was to renew his luck, because he was just going on about a month-long losing streak at this point, so he just went along with it. I mean, all this stuff came with him, so what could he really complain about? In this new location, the only things that Nasubi won were an office desk and an office chair. So glass half full, Nasubi could properly write on something that wouldn't hurt his back as much and causing him to lie down for long periods at a time. But after that, Nasubi hit his longest losing streak of all time. Producers are really worried that people might start losing interest in the show, so they moved Nasubi again for a second time. But this time they actually told him the real truth because it was actually for a change of luck this time. And at this new location, his television actually became his most useful item, because at this new location, Nasubi had won a VCR player, which at his first location, a couple months in, he had won 2 VCR tapes, but he could never really use them, so Nasubi had stashed them away somewhere. But then only a few weeks later, Nasubi had won his most valuable prize, to him at least, a PlayStation 1 with a train simulator game called Densha Dego. Nasubi played this game for days and days on end because this was the only form of entertainment Nasubi had actually had in months and months, almost a year up until this point. But soon Nasubi had realized that if he ever wanted to get out of there, he would have to set the controller down and get back to writing sweepstakes. After a year of isolation, Nasubi had started to win more high-value prizes. He won a pair of 4 car tires worth about 84,000 yen or $612 USD today. This put Nasubi within reach of his goal. He could almost see the finish line, and only about a month or so later, Nasubi had done it. He won his final prize. Ironically,
a box of bananas.
ちなみにここまでの商品総額は45,300円。ゴールの46,900円まであと1,600円となっていた。今回当たったバナナの値段は2,500円。ということは商品総額が47,800円。ということはゴール46,900円突破。検証生活 in Korea ここに終了。そうです、夏美はゴールしていたのです。
pushing him past the 1 million yen mark. Around 24 hours before Nasubi's finally released, he was transported once again, moved into a small box. It was a room, I guess, but I wouldn't really call it that because you could probably reach your hands out both ways and comfortably touch each side of the wall. So I believe it's just fair to call it a box. Having no idea what's to happen next, all Nasubi could do was sit and wait. And soon he could hear people gathering on the outside of the box. But what could they be here for? And why were there so many of them, Nasubi thought to himself. And soon the walls were torn down, and Nasubi was exposed, naked, to a live studio audience. Nasubi was in complete shock after he learned that he had been live streaming this entire time to millions across the world. Nasubi's humiliation had been entertainment for the world. Over the course of the game show, Nasubi had spent 15 months from January 1998 to April 1999, trapped in that cruel experiment. And after returning to a normal life, Nasubi had severe adjustment issues. For the first 6 months after the game show was completed, Nasubi found that wearing normal clothes like the ones I'm wearing now were extremely hot and uncomfortable. And for years after, he had extreme difficulty holding a normal conversation due to his prolonged isolation. Though he hoped that Sutsune Denpa Shonen would finally launch his comedy career, he never achieved mainstream success. He only took part in minor TV show and movie roles, appearing in Densha Oka, Trick, Tashashi no Danshi, and Kamen Rider W, where his most notable roles in all of those was a person called Watcherman. He also starred in a video game called 428 Shibari Scramble. Nasubi eventually found his place in stage acting, founding the theater troupe Eggplant Way, named after his infamous nickname. And in 2016, after 3 failed attempts, Nasubi had officially climbed Mount Everest. Today, he remains really active on social media, particularly Twitter. Nasubi's story is a disturbing example of how far reality TV can go just for entertainment. What was supposed to be a lighthearted experience became a cruel, psychological experiment. While he survived that whole ordeal, Nasubi still has scars of that experience to this day. What do you guys think of Nasubi's experience? Be honest with me. Do you think the producers were in the right for this? Or do you believe that you relate to Nasubi? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to support my dream of doing this once again. And I really thank you guys so much for watching till the end. I love you guys so much, and please follow ONKMP4 on TikTok for more awesome edits like the one at the beginning of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.